The orbital defense activated. Earth's fighters swarmed the enemy fleet. Part 1. The silent, warning Una stared at her screen. Her eyes hurt from looking at it for so many hours, but she could not look away. Something was wrong. The numbers on her screen did not make sense. She was a sensor analyst on station Halo 7. The station floated in Earth's orbit like a silent guardian. It was part of the Orbital Defense Network, a ring of weapons and fighter bays that circled the planet. The network had been built 200 years ago. It had never fired a single shot in real combat. Una checked her readings again. At the edge of the solar system, thousands of objects had appeared. They came from nowhere. One moment, empty space. The next moment, ships. Thousands and thousands of ships. Her hands shook as she saved the data. She had trained for this moment. Everyone who worked in the defense network had trained for this moment. But training was different from reality. In training, the fear was not real. She stood up and walked to Commander Taiwu's office. Her legs felt weak. The hallway of the station was quiet. Most of the crew was sleeping. It was the night cycle. Taiwu was not sleeping. He never seemed to sleep. He sat at his desk, reading reports. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. Those eyes had seen many things. Una knew his story. Everyone knew his story. 20 years ago, during the Mars Rebellion, he had ignored early warning signs. People had died because of his mistake. He had carried that guilt ever since. "Sir," Una said. Her voice was small. "I found something." Taiwu looked up. He saw her face. He saw the fear in her eyes. Without a word, he stood and followed her back to her station. He looked at the screen for a long time. His face did not change, but Una saw his hands grip the edge of her desk. His knuckles turned white. "How many?" he asked. "Over 3,000 ships, sir." "Maybe more. They are still arriving." Taiwu closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like a man who had just heard his own death sentence. Then he opened his eyes, and the old soldier was back. "Wake everyone," he said. "Send this data to Earth Command. Priority 1. The next few hours were chaos. Alarms rang through the station. Crew members ran to their positions. Messages flew back and forth between Halo 7 and Earth. On Earth, the United Defense Council gathered in emergency session. Leaders from every nation sat around a huge table. They watched the same data Una had found. They listened to the same terrible numbers. Admiral Ga stood before them. She was 80 years old, but her mind was sharp as a blade. She had designed the Orbital Defense Network. She had spent her entire life preparing for a day she hoped would never come. "The fleet will reach Earth in 72 hours, she said. "We must activate the network." The room exploded with voices. Some demanded more information. Some wanted to try communication first. Some simply refused to believe what they were seeing. Then the alien fleet sent its message. It was simple. It was clear. It was terrifying. "Submit or be harvested." The room went silent. Everyone understood what those words meant. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a first contact that could be solved with diplomacy. This was an invasion. Back on Halo 7, Una listened to the message. She played it again and again. The alien voice was strange. It sounded like many voices speaking together, like a choir of the dead. She thought about her family on Earth. Her mother lived in a small town by the sea. Her brother was a teacher in the capital. They did not know what was coming. Nobody on Earth knew yet. The news had not been released to the public. Commander Taiwu found her at her station. He put a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," he said. "You found them. You gave us warning. Because of you, we have time to prepare." Una looked up at him. "Will it be enough time, sir?" Taiwu did not answer. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, death was coming. 3,000 ships full of creatures that saw humans as nothing more than food. I do not know, he finally said. But I know one thing. 20 years ago, I failed to act. I was afraid of being wrong. I waited too long, and people died. He turned to face her. I will not make that mistake again. On Earth, the Council was still arguing. Some members wanted to evacuate the planet. Others wanted to surrender. A few even suggested that the message might be a trick. Admiral Ga listened to all of them. Then she spoke again. We built the Orbital Defense Network for exactly this moment. We have 47 platforms. We have 15,000 fighters. We have the best pilots in human history. She paused. We can fight, and if we lose? Someone asked. Jihei looked at the speaker. Her old eyes were calm. If we lose, then we die fighting. That is better than being harvested like animals. The vote would come soon. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. 72 hours remained in her small station. Yuna kept watching her screens. The alien fleet moved closer with every passing minute. It looked like a swarm of insects, dark and hungry. She was afraid. But she was also determined. Whatever happened next, she would do her duty. She would not run. She would not hide. Humanity had been warned. Now humanity had to choose. Fight or die. There was no third option. The orbital defense activated. Earth fighters swarmed the enemy fleet Part 2. The decision 48 hours remained when the aliens showed humanity what they were capable of. The Mars Defense Station was home to 12,000 people. Soldiers, scientists, families. They lived in a great dome on the red planet's surface. They had weapons. They had shields. They thought they were safe. The alien fleet did not even slow down. A single beam of light shot from the largest ship. It was bright green, like poison. It hit the Mars station and everything inside turned to fire. 12,000 people died in less than 3 seconds. Across the solar system, humans watched the footage. They watched it again and again, unable to believe what they were seeing. On the lunar carrier Eternal Soul, a young pilot named Junho watched with empty eyes. His hands were shaking. His face was pale as paper. His younger sister had been on Mars. She had been a medical officer. She had just finished her training 6 months ago. Junho remembered her smile when she left Earth. She had been so excited to serve humanity. She had been so proud. Now she was gone. Turned to ash in a single heartbeat. The pilots around Junho were silent. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some just stared at nothing, their minds unable to accept what had happened. Captain Yunji walked into the room. She was a small woman, but she had the eyes of a warrior. She had fought in 3 conflicts and survived them all. She looked at her pilots and saw their broken faces. I know what you are feeling, she said. Her voice was steady. I know the pain. I know the anger. But we do not have time for grief. Not yet. She pointed at the screen, where the alien fleet still moved toward Earth. They killed our people. They destroyed our station. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. Her voice grew hard. They are wrong. Junho looked up at her. His eyes were red from crying, but something else burned in them now. Something hot and fierce. When do we fight? He asked. Yunji met his gaze. She saw the rage inside him. She knew that rage could be dangerous. It could make a pilot careless. It could get him killed, but it could also make him brave. Soon, she said. Very soon. On Earth, the United Defense Council finally made its decision. There was no more argument. The destruction of Mars had ended all debate. Admiral Ga stood before the council one last time. Her face was calm, but her heart was heavy. She had hoped to live out her days in peace. She had hoped the network she built would never be needed. That hope was dead now, buried under the ashes of Mars. The Orbital Defense Network was designed for this moment, she said. We built it hoping we would never use it. That hope is gone. What remains is duty. The council voted. Every hand went up. The decision was unanimous. Admiral G.A. nodded. She turned to her communications officer. Send the order. Activate the network. Across Earth's orbit, the message spread like lightning. On 47 platforms, lights turned from red to green. Weapon systems came online. Fighter bays opened their doors. 15,000 pilots received their orders at the same moment. The words appeared on their screens, simple and clear. Orbital Defense Network activated. All pilots to battle stations. This is not a drill. On Station Halo 7, Commander Taiwu read the message. He had waited 20 years for a chance to make up for his past failure. Now that chance had come. He pressed the button on his console. His voice echoed through every corridor of the station. All hands, battle stations. This is Commander Taiwu. The network is active. We are now at war. Yuna heard his words from her sensor station. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. She had a job to do. The entire fleet would depend on her readings. She would not let them down. On the lunar carrier, Junho climbed into his fighter. The cockpit was small and cramped, but it felt like home. He had spent thousands of hours in this seat. He knew every button, every switch, every sound the engine made. He looked at the picture taped to his console. It showed him and his sister, smiling together on their last birthday. She had made him a cake. It was terrible cake, burnt on the outside and raw on the inside. But he had eaten every bite because she made it with love. I am coming for them, he whispered to the picture. For you. For everyone on Mars, I am coming. Captain Yunji's voice crackled through his radio. All pilots, check in. We launch in 10 minutes. One by one, the pilots reported ready. Junho was the last to speak. Red 7, ready. Yunji paused. She knew which pilot that was. She knew his sister had died. She knew the fire that burned inside him. Red 7, she said. Fly smart. Fly angry. But come back alive. Yes, Captain. Across the solar system, humanity prepared for war. Fighters fueled up. Weapons loaded. Prayers were said. The alien fleet came closer with every passing minute. 24 hours remained until they reached Earth's orbit. Admiral G.A. watched from her command center on Earth. She was old and tired, but her spirit was strong. She had built the network. She had trained the pilots. She had done everything she could. Now it was time to see if it was enough. She looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were dots of red light, thousands of them moving together like a cloud of blood. Earth was a dot of blue, small and fragile. But around that blue dot were rings of green. The orbital platforms. The fighters. The defenders. Come then, G.A. whispered to the enemy she could not see. Come and learn why humanity has survived so long. Come and learn why we will never surrender. The clock continued to count down. War was coming, and Earth was ready to meet it. The orbital defense activated. Earth's fighters swarmed the enemy. Fleet Part 3. First contact, the alien fleet arrived at dawn. From Earth. People looked up at the sky and saw nothing. The battle was too far away to see with normal eyes. But in orbit, the view was very different. Yuna watched her screen as 3,000 enemy ships entered weapons range. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. But these were not fish or birds. These were killers. Commander Taiwu stood behind her. His voice was calm as he gave the order. All platforms open fire. 47 orbital platforms fired at the same moment. Beams of bright white light shot across the darkness of space. Missiles flew like angry hornets. The first wave of destruction hit the alien fleet before they could react. 200 enemy ships exploded in the opening seconds. Their green hulls cracked and burned. Their crews died without knowing what killed them. On Earth, Admiral GA watched the battle through her tactical display. For one beautiful moment, she allowed herself to hope. They had hurt the enemy. They had drawn first blood. Then the aliens fought back. The enemy fleet spread apart like a flower opening its petals. From their ships came thousands of smaller craft. They were not like human fighters. They looked like insects with sharp wings and glowing eyes. They moved too fast, turned too quickly. No human pilot could match their speed. "Enemy fighters incoming," Una reported. Her voice shook slightly. "I count. 10,000. No, more. Still launching." Taiwu's jaw tightened. They had expected this. They had trained for this. But seeing it with his own eyes was different. "Launch all fighters," he ordered. "Every pilot, now." From the carrier Eternal Soul, Junho's squadron burst into space. His fighter shook as the engines pushed him forward. Through his cockpit window, he could see the enemy for the first time. They were ugly things. Their ships looked like dead insects, gray and wet. Their weapons glowed with that same poisonous green light that had destroyed Mars. "Red Squadron, form up on me," Junho said through his radio. "We are going straight through them." "Are you crazy?" one of his wingmen asked. "There are thousands of them." "Then we better start shooting." Junho pushed his throttle to maximum. His squadron followed. 20 human fighters flew directly at 10,000 alien drones. Captain Yunji watched from her position near the carrier. She had orders to protect the larger ships, but her heart wanted to follow Junho into battle. "That fool is going to get himself killed," she muttered. As she watched, something amazing happened. The alien drones moved to intercept Junho's squadron. They fired their weapons. Green bolts of energy flew through space like rain, and Junho dodged them all. His fighter danced between the enemy shots like a leaf in the wind. His guns blazed, cutting down alien drones one after another. His squadron spread out behind him, each pilot finding their own targets. In 3 minutes, they destroyed over 100 drones. They lost only 2 pilots. How is that possible? Una asked, watching the battle data scroll across her screen. Taiwu smiled for the first time since the war began. "The aliens have never fought us before. They do not know how we move. They do not know how we think." He was right. The alien drones were fast, but they were predictable. They fought like machines because they were machines. Human pilots were different. Human pilots were creative. Human pilots were unpredictable. And human pilots were angry. Across the battle zone, more squadrons engaged the enemy. The orbital platforms continued to fire, focusing on the larger command ships. Every time a command ship died, hundreds of drones went silent. Una noticed this pattern. She watched it happen again and again. When a big ship exploded, the small ships near it stopped moving. "Commander," she said urgently, "the drones are connected to the command ships. They are not thinking for themselves. They are being controlled." Taiwu leaned forward. "Are you certain? Look at the data. Every time we kill a command ship, the drones in its sector go dark. The big ships are sending control signals. Without them, the drones are nothing." Taiwu grabbed his communicator. "Admiral GA, this is Hilo 7. We have found a weakness." On Earth, GA listened to the report. Her old face broke into a fierce grin. "All platforms, change targeting priority. Focus fire on enemy command vessels. Ignore the drones. Kill the brain, and the body will die." The order spread through the fleet. The orbital platforms shifted their aim. Now, every weapon pointed at the largest alien ships. The enemy tried to protect their command vessels. They moved their drones into defensive formations. They fired everything they had at the human platform's dot, but it was too late. The humans had found the weakness. 3 command ships died in rapid succession. Suddenly, an entire sector of the battle went quiet. Thousands of drones floated dead in space. Junho flew through the wreckage, his guns still blazing. His fuel was running low. His ammunition was almost gone. But he did not care. Every dead drone was revenge for his sister. Every destroyed ship was justice for Mars. "Keep pushing," he shouted to his squadron. "We are winning." Captain Yunji finally could not stay back any longer. She launched her own fighter and flew to join the assault. "Red 7, form up on my wing," she ordered. "Let us show them what humans can do." Junho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had found his prey. "Yes, Captain. Right behind you." Together, they flew toward the heart of the enemy fleet. Behind them, humanity's fighters followed. The battle had only begun. But one thing was already clear: the aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had come to harvest Earth. Instead, they had woken a swarm of angry hornets, and those hornets were just getting started. The orbital defense activated. Earth's fighters swarmed the enemy fleet. Part 4. The swarm. 6 hours of battle. 6 hours of fire and death and screaming. Yuna had not slept. She had not eaten. She had not even left her chair. Her eyes burned from staring at her screen, but she could not look away. Every number on her display was a life. Every dot that disappeared was a pilot who would never go home. The humans had lost 23 platforms. 8,000 fighters were gone. But the aliens had paid a higher price. Over 1,500 of their ships floated dead in space. Their drone swarms were cut in half. Commander Taiwu studied the tactical map. His face was gray with exhaustion, but his mind was still sharp. "We are winning," Yuna said quietly. "Are we not?" Taiwu shook his head. "We are surviving." "That is not the same thing." He pointed at the center of the alien formation. There, surrounded by hundreds of ships, floated the largest vessel Yuna had ever seen. It was shaped like a giant seed, black and smooth. It was 10 kilometers long. "The Harvester," Taiwu said. "Their flagship. As long as it lives, they will keep fighting." Yuna ran her sensors over the massive ship. What she found made her blood go cold. "Commander, the Harvester is not just a warship. I am reading biological signatures inside. Thousands of them. Some match human DNA." Taiwu's face went pale. "What are you saying?" I think they are processing the people from Mars. The ones they killed. They did not just destroy them. They took them." Her voice cracked. "They are eating them." For a long moment, Taiwu could not speak. The horror was too great. The enemy was not just an invader. They were monsters in the truest sense of the word. He pressed his communicator. "Admiral GA, priority message. The enemy flagship is a processing facility. They are harvesting human remains." On Earth, GA listened to the report. Her old hands gripped the edge of her console. She had seen many terrible things in her long life. But this was different. This was evil. "Broadcast this information to all units," she ordered. "Every pilot needs to know what we are fighting." The message spread through the fleet in seconds. Every human fighter, every platform, every crew member heard the truth. They were not just defending Earth. They were fighting for the souls of the dead. Junho heard the message in his cockpit. His sister's face flashed in his mind. The thought of her body being consumed by these monsters filled him with a rage beyond anything he had ever known. "Captain Yunji," he said through his radio, permission to lead an assault on the Harvester. Yunji was silent for a moment. They had been fighting together for hours. Their squadron had been reduced from 20 pilots to 4. They were low on fuel, low on ammunition, low on everything except determination. "That ship is surrounded by hundreds of defenders," she finally said. "It would be suicide. I know. You would die. Probably." Another pause. Then Yunji laughed. It was a strange sound in the middle of so much death. "Then we die together, Red 7. Form up on me." Commander Taiwu had been listening to their conversation. He made his decision. All platforms, focus fire on creating a corridor through the enemy formation. "We are going to punch a hole straight to the Harvester." "Sir," one of his officers protested, "if we concentrate our fire, we leave ourselves open to attack." "I know. Do it anyway." The order went out. Every surviving platform turned its weapons toward a single point in the enemy line. The beams of light converged, creating a tunnel of destruction through the alien fleet. Ships exploded. Drones burned. For one brief moment, there was a clear path to the heart of the enemy formation. "All fighters, attack pattern Omega," Taiwu commanded. "Everything we have. Straight down the corridor. Target the Harvester." 2,000 human fighters turned as one. They flew into the corridor like arrows shot from a bow. Behind them, the alien fleet tried to close the gap. Above them, the platforms kept firing. JUNHO was at the front of the assault. His fighters screamed through space. Around him, pilots were dying. Green beams cut through human ships like knives through paper, but they kept going. They did not stop. They did not turn back. Captain Yunji flew beside him. Her voice was calm on the radio. "Red 7, I want you to know something." "What is that, Captain?" "Your sister would be proud of you." Junho felt tears in his eyes. He blinked them away. There was no time for crying. There was only time for fighting. "Thank you, Captain." The Harvester grew larger in his view. It was enormous, bigger than any ship he had ever seen. Its surface was covered in strange patterns, like veins on a giant heart. This was the monster that had eaten his sister. This was the beast that wanted to consume all of humanity, and Junho was going to kill it. Behind him, Commander Taiwu opened the channel to every pilot in the fleet. His voice was strong and clear. "You are not fighting for Earth. You are fighting for every world the aliens will never reach because we stopped them here. You are fighting for your families, your friends, your future. This is your moment. This is humanity's moment." He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, but no less powerful. "Make it count." The assault force reached the Harvester's defensive perimeter. 400 fighters against 1,000 enemy ships. The final battle had begun. The orbital defense activated. Earth fighters swarmed the enemy fleet. Part 5. The price of dawn. The Harvester was even more terrifying up close. JUNHO could see things moving beneath its surface. Dark shapes that squirmed and pulsed. The ship was not just a machine. It was alive. And it was hungry. Around him, the battle raged. Human fighters clashed with alien defenders in a storm of fire and metal. Ships exploded on both sides. The void of space filled with burning wreckage and floating bodies. 400 pilots had entered the Harvester's perimeter. In the first minute alone, 100 of them died, but the rest kept fighting. Captain Yunji's voice cut through the chaos. "Red Squadron, follow me. We need to clear a path to the ship's hull." Junho followed her without hesitation. His fighter twisted and turned, dodging enemy fire. His guns blazed, cutting down any alien that got in his way. Behind him, the last 2 members of his squadron did the same. They were so close now. The Harvester filled Junho's entire view. Its surface was covered in weapon emplacements, each one spitting green death at the attacking humans. Yuna. Junho shouted into his radio. "We need a weak point. Where do we hit this thing?" Back on Station Halo 7, Yuna worked faster than she had ever worked before. Her fingers flew across her console. She analyzed the harvester's structure, looking for any flaw, any vulnerability. Then she found it. "There!" she shouted. Near the center of the ship, there is a thermal exhaust port. The ship's main reactor vents heat through that point. If you can get a missile inside, the chain reaction will destroy the entire vessel. "How big is the opening?" Junho asked. Yuna hesitated. 3 meters. 3 meters. He would have to fire a missile into a hole 3 meters wide while flying at maximum speed through a storm of enemy fire. "No problem," Junho said. He was lying, and everyone knew it. But what choice did they have? Captain Yunji heard the plan. She looked at the tactical display in her cockpit. Between Junho and the exhaust port stood a massive weapons array. It was cutting down human fighters by the dozen. "Red 7, she said quietly. "I'm going to clear your path." "Captain, no. That is an order, pilot." Her voice was firm but kind. "I told you to come back alive. I am changing that order. Kill that ship. Kill it for all of us." Before Junho could respond, Yunji's fighter broke formation. She flew directly at the weapons array, her guns blazing. The alien defenses turned to track her. Green beams shot toward her from every direction. She dodged the first volley. And the second. Her fighter danced through the fire like a leaf in a hurricane. But even the best pilot cannot dodge forever. A beam caught her wing. Then another hit her engine. Her fighter began to spin, but she did not try to escape. Instead, she pushed forward, straight into the heart of the weapons array. "For Earth," she whispered. Her ship exploded. The blast took the weapons array with it. A huge section of the harvester's defenses went dark. Junho screamed. He wanted to turn back, to honor his captain's sacrifice with tears and silence. But there was no time. The path was open. He had to take it. He pushed his engines to maximum. Warning lights flashed across his cockpit. His fuel was almost gone. His weapons were almost empty. He had one missile left, one chance. The exhaust port appeared ahead of him. It was a small dark circle on the harvester's hull. Around it, the last alien defenders converged on his position. A beam grazed his wing. His fighter shuddered. Another shot hit his rear shield. The metal screamed. Junho did not slow down. He did not turn away. He thought of his sister. He thought of Captain Yunji. He thought of everyone who had died so he could reach this moment. "This is for all of you," he whispered. He fired. The missile flew straight and true. It disappeared into the exhaust port. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Then the harvester began to glow from within. Cracks appeared across its surface. Light poured out like blood from a wound. And then it exploded. The blast was enormous. It consumed the harvester and everything around it. Alien ships caught in the explosion were vaporized instantly. The shockwave spread outward in a ring of fire. Junho's fighter was thrown backward by the force. His systems failed. His engine died. He spun through space, unconscious and alone, but the harvester was dead. Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate. Without the flagship's control signal, half the remaining alien fleet went dark. Ships stopped moving. Drones shut down. The Great Armada fell silent. The surviving human pilots did not hesitate. They attacked the helpless enemy with everything they had left. For every friend they had lost, for every ship that had burned, they took their revenge. The few alien ships that still had power tried to flee. They turned away from Earth and ran for the edge of the solar system. None of them made it. The orbital platforms tracked them down. The fighters hunted them like wolves chasing deer. One by one, the invaders died. 3 days later, A search team found Junho's fighter drifting in the wreckage. He was alive, barely. His body was broken. His mind was damaged from oxygen loss, but he was alive. They brought him back to Earth as a hero. They told him what he had done. They told him how many lives he had saved. Junho did not feel like a hero. He felt empty. He had lost his sister. He had lost his captain. He had lost so many friends, but Earth still existed. Humanity still breathed. That was something. On the day of the victory celebration, Admiral Ga spoke to a grieving but proud planet. They came to harvest us, she said. They saw us as nothing more than food. They expected us to surrender. They expected us to die quietly. She paused, and her old eyes shone with fierce pride. They found instead a species that would burn alongside them before we would ever kneel. They learned that humans do not give up. They learned that humans fight back. And they paid for that lesson with their lives. In the crowd, Yuna stood in her new uniform. Commander Taiwu had recommended her for the Solar Cross, humanity's highest military honor. She would receive it alongside Junho, alongside the memories of Captain Yunji and the thousands of pilots who had given everything. 6 months later, Yuna sat at her new station on the rebuilt Halo 7. The orbital defense network had been restored, stronger than before. More platforms, more fighters, more pilots ready to defend their home. Her screen flickered. A familiar pattern appeared at the edge of the solar system. More ships. A second fleet. Yuna smiled. This time, she was not afraid. She pressed her communicator. Commander Taiwu, this is Lieutenant Yuna. I have contacts at the system boundary. How many? 5,000 ships. Bigger than before. There was a pause. Then Taiwu's voice came back, calm and confident. Good. We were getting bored. The alarm sounded across the network. Pilots ran to their fighters. Platforms powered up their weapons. Earth's defenders were ready. And this time, they would show the galaxy what humanity could really do.